We want to suggest to you that which puts all the pieces of the jigsaw together to give you the big picture, the Islamic eschatology, is saying to us that the time has come for the United States of America to be replaced as the ruling state in the world. And for those young students who we have here today, and there's so many of them, let us explain what is a ruling state. To rule the world as a ruling state does not mean that you have to rule every square inch of downtown Chicago and Jakarta. No! A ruling state, when we use the term, is a state whose power and dominance in the world cannot be challenged by any rival or combination of rivals. In this sense of the word, the holy state of Israel, established by Nabi Dawood alayhi salam, the Prophet David, and Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam, the Prophet Solomon, was the ruling state in the world. And Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam made the dua which is in the Quran, that Allah may grant that no state in history could ever rival this state, the holy state of Israel. And so came the status of a ruling state. In our book, Jerusalem in the Quran, I forgot it over there, it's at the back. Jerusalem in the Quran, we explain the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about three ruling states. Three ruling states created by Dajjal in his 3 stages of his mission. Before Dajjal will emerge in this world of space and time as a human being. He would be a Jew. He would be a young man. He would be powerfully built. He would have curly hair. And from Jerusalem he's going to declare, I am the Messiah. And all the Zionists, the Christian Zionists and the Jewish Zionists and their followers, would say, yes, he is the Messiah. But you and I know that would be a lie. He is someone who has been created and programmed to impersonate the Messiah. And you and I know that the Messiah is the son of Mary, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, the Prophet Jesus. He would be Dajjal, the false Messiah. And the time has now arrived in the process of history where, after having created Britain as the first ruling state with something that they call Pax Britannica, and then having caused or engineered the collapse of Britain and its replacement with the United States of America as a second ruling state in the world with something that they call Pax Americana, we have now reached that moment in time using our methodology which they reject. Protestant Islam rejects our methodology, and Protestant Islam says, don't listen to Imran Hosein. Don't listen to him. He has no Aqidah. He's a Sufi. Well, go ahead. Go ahead. But you're still my brothers. And I don't speak disrespectfully of you. But this methodology is delivering the goods. This methodology is explaining the world today. And I won't end without explaining the methodology. That we are now located at that moment in time, and I'm addressing you now, Protestant Islam, when Dajjal's day like a month is ending and his day like a week is beginning, and a new ruling state is emerging which will replace the United States of America. That is the big picture. The jigsaw puzzle has now been put together. Israel wants to replace the United States of America as the third and last ruling state in the world. You have never said that, Protestant Islam. We are saying it. And guess what? The Muslims around the world are convinced that we are correct. And we thank Allah who gave us the insight to be able to see the big picture through Islamic eschatology. When Israel takes over from the United States, and the financial crash and the economic crash and the military crash and the hatred for the United States around the world and so on are all part of the agenda to bring down the United States. When Israel takes over from the United States and the world, then Israel must establish its political and economic dominion over the whole world. And the first people that have to rule will be the Arabs. Of course. Otherwise no Jew will accept this as a ruling state. And so the Arab Spring has come at this time to facilitate the wars that Israel will have to wage in order to subdue the Arab world and establish an Israeli political and economic dominion over the Arab world. And yet Arab Islamic scholarship knows nothing about this. Arab Islamic scholarship knows absolutely nothing about it. That is our predicament today, that we need a new generation of scholars of Islam using the methodology that we are offering to be able to read the world correctly. It is at this time that we have to ask, why is it that Protestant Islam has emerged at this time with an insistence that religion is based on texts, that your hands have to be here and not here, and that your feet have to be like this and not like this, and that your pants or your pajama must reach here and not there? I'm still using respectful language. You should have heard my teacher, Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah. He thundered at them 40 years ago. He gave them, he blasted them left, right and center. But Imran doesn't have his thunder. My teacher of blessed memory, Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah. This Salafi version of the faith, and remember Salafis, you are my brothers. And I am not picking up boxing gloves against you. This is an academic, an intellectual discourse. We differ. Why can't we differ? Why can't we exchange views without hatred for each other? Why? You are my brothers. But that does not mean that you are immune from my offering a valid criticism of a methodology which is incapable of recognizing why the financial crash is taking place now, why the economic crash is taking place now, whereas our methodology is explaining why it is taking place now. And there's something else which is happening at this time. The pieces are coming together. We have a group called the Tabligh Jamaat, who have fanned out around the world. And they are beautiful brothers. Oh yes. When you see the way they live, you see how they are regular in their salat, they dress in a particular way, they're conforming with the sunnah, you say, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. I don't think we can fit Tabligh Jamaat in the blue jeans Jamaat, can we? You know the blue jeans Jamaat. But why is it that at this particular time, when we face a challenge different from any that we have ever faced before, that we should now have this Protestant version of Islam with that epistemology and with this gathering of large numbers of people, 500,000 ijtima in downtown Chicago? Dajjal is not bothered at all about that. Why? They show no concern whatsoever they show, Tabligh Jamaat shows absolutely no concern whatsoever with Islamic eschatology that would explain the reality of the world today and which would anticipate the events which are unfolding today and tomorrow. I say that this is not happening by accident, and it is time for us to deliver a wake-up call, lovingly of course, not with boxing gloves, to all those who are members of the Tabligh Jamaat, the only Jamaat in the world, incidentally, which has closed the doors of the masjid to me wherever in the world I have gone. I cannot go into a masjid controlled by Tabligh Jamaat to teach them that which they do not know. And they don't have the teachers to teach it. Most of the Salafi masjids are the same except for, and may Allah bless him, Sheikh Faiz in Sydney. Sheikh Faiz, who is the foremost Salafi Sheikh of Australia, graduate of the Islamic University of Medina. And when I was in Australia for my second visit in 2002, Sheikh Faiz came to my home where I was staying and brought a Lebanese breakfast one morning so we could sit down and have Lebanese breakfast, and then invited me to his center to give a lecture on Islam and the international monetary system. And before the lecture could take place, he asked me to come into his office. And he said to me, Sheikh Imran, I want to become your student. Those were the words he spoke to me. Well, he's such a learned man, I should be his student. Why is it? Why can't we give you a wake-up call and yet remain brothers with each other? Because your methodology is wrong. You're putting your head in the sand like an ostrich in Tabligh Jamaat, and not paying attention to understanding events unfolding in the world is dangerous for the Ummah. It's like sleepwalking through history. I thought Ronald Reagan was the only one who did it. But that's what you're doing, Tabligh Jamaat. Do not be annoyed with me. Do not be offended, because you are my brothers. Now let's come to the methodology. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that every prophet warned about Dajjal. And the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam warned about Dajjal. But I'm going to tell you something that no one has ever said before me. Dajjal sees with the left eye, he's blind in the right eye, it looks like a bulging grip. Dajjal sees with the left eye, he's blind in the right eye, it looks like a bulging grip. But your Lord is not one-eyed. Between his eyes on his forehead is written the word kafir, kafir, kafir. And every mu'min will be able to read it, whether that mu'min is literate or illiterate. And so Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu will be able to read it, kafir. But Tony Blair won't be able to read it. You know, he was just convicted for war crimes right here in KL. So we sent Tony Blair to the eye specialist. Check out his eyes. Why he cannot read this kafir? Oh, when you're sending Tony Blair, send George Bush also with him. And then the report comes, nothing wrong with their eyes. Well, then how come they can't read, but the mu'min can read? We say, and this is our viewpoint, and you don't have to accept it, is that when Dajjal sees with the left eye, this is religious symbolism at work, that he is seeing with external sight. And when he is blind in the right eye, this is religious symbolism at work, that he is internally blind. And that's why the kafir cannot read. Because when the mu'min reads, he's not reading with these eyes alone. He's reading with internal sight. And did the Prophet not say, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, I wish I had another 1 hour to deal with the subject. He said, ittaqu firasat al-mu'min فَإِنَّهُ يَنْظُرُ بِنُورِ اللَّهِ. Fear the firasa. The firasa is that hikmah, or that wisdom of the believer, which is intuitive in nature and founded on spirituality. Fear the intuitive, internal spiritual insight or wisdom of the mu'min, because when he sees with the nur of Allah. And so this hadith is speaking about epistemology and about spirituality. The absolute imperative of pursuing the spiritual quest, so that you'll have internal nur with which to see, and so that you have a chance of walking in the path of Khidr alayhi salam. After all, it is Suratul Kahf of the Quran, which is the surah of Ilmu Akhir Zaman par excellence. And Khidr alayhi salam is different from the rest, because you'll only meet him where? You will meet him at Majma'ul Bahrain. Majma'ul Bahrain, the place where the two oceans meet. Which two oceans? Go to Imam al-Baydawi and his tafsir. The ocean of knowledge externally acquired, the ocean of knowledge internally received. When these two oceans of knowledge come together, as they did in my teacher of blessed memory, Maulana Dr. Fadl Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, when these two oceans come together in an individual, in a scholar, and are harmoniously integrated, only then do you have the scholar who can take all the pieces together and solve the jigsaw puzzle and deliver to you the big picture. And so today we address them, Protestant Islam, and we ask you to take another look at epistemology and at spirituality, the methodology that we are offering. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على أفضلهم وخاتم النبيين محمد الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Brother Chairman, respected members of the Management Committee, and brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our subject is one which is not just important, it is also one of critical importance. There are those who consider their supreme objective in life and their supreme loyalty to be holding on to their job and getting their promotion. But there are others who believe that their faith is the most important thing in their lives. And such people would want to sacrifice whatever they have to sacrifice in order to preserve their faith. We live in a world today where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now testing us. And He is testing us with the greatest tests and trials ever in history. No people ever before, no people, had to face the tests and trials that we now face. These tests and trials are of such a nature that reason alone, the rational faculty, the capacity to think, is not enough. No. We have to be a people who see with two eyes in order to be able to see and recognize the world today. But most people see with only one eye. They see with only the external eye. They are internally blind. They may have a PhD from MIT, but yet they are internally blind. The heart can see, but they don't teach that at universities, no. The heart can see what these eyes cannot see. The heart can penetrate beyond the external appearance to reach the internal reality of things. But that would be possible only when there is faith in the heart. And when there is faith or iman in the heart, then Allah puts into the heart nur. You cannot buy that nur in the stock market. It's not on sale. The government of Malaysia cannot give you that nur. No. Only Allah gives that nur. And when Allah puts nur in the heart, then with these two eyes, the external and the internal, we will be able to read the world today correctly. Otherwise, we can be deceived. For example, those who see with one eye, they say we live in the best of all worlds. This is the best world ever. There has never been a better world than this. In this age, for example, we have electricity. Yesterday, they used the oil lamp. In this age, we have the motor car. Yesterday, they used the donkey cart. In this age, we have the telephone, something that you are familiar with in this company. And yesterday, they used to use birds, pigeons, to take messages. In this age we have the toilets in the home because we have sewage systems. And yesterday you had to go outside of the home. And so the evidence keeps on mounting. Who wants to go back to yesterday? This is the best of all worlds. Those, on the other hand, who see with two eyes, they say, but wait a minute. Can this be the best of all worlds? When those who are ruling the world and getting all of mankind to become carbon copies of themselves, that anything they do, they make all of mankind follow them. This civilization, which today dominates the whole world, is now moving to get all of mankind to agree. Every government eventually will have to accept that it is legally permissible for a man to marry another man. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? That's progress, huh? That's progress. And get a marriage certificate. And for a woman to marry another woman and get a marriage certificate. We say no. This doesn't look like the best of all worlds at all. This looks like the worst of all worlds. The difference between appearance and reality is remarkable. Yesterday we lived in a world in which, yes, there were people who were rich and there were others who were poor, of course, but we never knew an economy, no, not ever in history, in which the rich were permanently rich, and in which the poor were imprisoned in permanent poverty and destitution. This is the first time in human history. We say this is not progress. We always used money all through history. And the money that we used was money which had its value inside the money. So it was money with intrinsic value. So if somebody wanted to rob you, they had to come at you and take the money from you by fighting you. That's the only way they could take your money. But now we live in a world in which they can rob us, take away our wealth, without ever having to put their hands in our pockets. Yes? And they have reduced Indonesia today to slavery. And they have reduced Bangladesh to slavery, and Egypt to slavery. It is not by accident that Indonesia is so poor today. If you believe that Indonesia is poor because the Indonesians don't work, then you should buy a one-way ticket to the moon and go and stay there. You don't belong to here. No, 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 no. There is a monetary system in the world today, and I know that subject because I have studied international monetary economics at 2 universities. I know the subject. We have a system of money in the world today which is being used to rip off mankind, as a consequence of which one part of the world today is in slavery and another part of the world are the slaves. There is a hadith that Dajjal will be followed by 70,000 Jews from Isfahan wearing their Persian shawls. You heard the hadith? Huh? Good, you're shaking your heads. My opinion on this hadith, and remember, when you find a hadith pertaining to Akhirul Zaman, and Imran Hosein does not touch on those ahadith, the implication is that he is not as yet comfortable that he has penetrated the hadith. There are some ahadith pertaining to Akhirul Zaman that you'll only understand after certain events unfold in the historical process. And so little by little I am moving forward, little by little, one step at a time. When I get a hadith that I believe I understand, I then offer my opinion. But I qualify. Do not accept my opinion, please, until you are convinced that it is correct. Dajjal will be followed by 70,000 Jews from Isfahan, wearing their Persian shawls. And so immediately I come to the conclusion that these will be Jews who will have Muslim names because they're coming from Isfahan. And they're dressed up as Iranians, Persians, not as Jews. So these will be a hidden force emerging out of Iran that will be supporting Dajjal, externally appearing to be Muslims, but internally supporters of Dajjal. And so I am anticipating now that there are going to be great changes in Iran. And through this talk I'm warning the Iranian government and the Iranian people that the attack is coming. Yes. Because I hold that the Iranian government is sincere in its opposition to the oppressors who now rule the world. You can have other views, but this is my view, that the Iranian government is sincere in its opposition to Israel. I reject the view that the Iranian government is insincere and they have some secret pact with Israel and they're just throwing dust in our eyes. No, Imran Hosein does not think like that. An Iranian government which is sincere in its opposition to Israel is not something that Dajjal will accept. No. He wants to use the Shia divide. He wants to exploit the Shia sectarian movement to his advantage. And so he needs a government in Iran that will be first Shia and then Muslim. And so I expect that the attack will take place on Iran. Of course, the attack would be for destroying the nuclear plants. That's all the hype about nuclear plants and nuclear weapons and so on. But I want to suggest that the more important reason for the attack on Iran would be to remove this present government and to replace it with a Karzai type Afghanistan government in Iran that will submit to the Zionists and therefore become camp followers of Dajjal. And that is when this hadith will be fulfilled, about 70,000 Jews. When Iran is attacked, which I expect to take place this year or next year, because that's why all of this drum beating about 2012, I also expect that they have already groomed an Imam al-Mahdi. They have chosen somebody and they have programmed him and groomed him and he is going to announce that he is Imam al-Mahdi. Israeli Mossad work. And I expect large numbers of Iranian people are going to be deceived because they are waiting and they are expecting. And the Iranian government is fueling the fire with announcements about the imminent arrival of Imam al-Mahdi. But he will not be Imam al-Mahdi, oh no. He will be a false Mahdi. And we have to be very careful about that. The true Imam al-Mahdi, in my opinion, Allah will never cause him to emerge until Dajjal has completed his mission or is very close to the completion of his mission. Only at that time would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cause the Imam to emerge. And when the Imam emerges, only then would Nabi Isa alayhi salam return. The two are contemporaneous. The age of Imam al-Mahdi is also the age of the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And we are probably 25, 30 years away from that now.